Everyone thinks I'm cold for cutting my sister out of my life, but none of them know the night she left me bleeding on the floor. Sometimes I wonder if I should have kept my mouth shut forever. Welcome to Reddit Toxic Family Telltales channel. New episode every day. My mom and brother once accused me of something I never did, and the fallout got so bad I ended up in hiding. And now? That same mom is standing in court, begging for visitation rights with the son she once protected, who's now locked up in juvie. Let me take you back to where it all began. I was only 7 years old. My brother Nathan was 9. He had this habit, dumping rocks into his teacher's gas tank every single day for a week. Of course, he didn't think it was a big deal, until he got caught. The school called our house and my mom picked up. She had two options: she could tell them the truth, that Nathan had done it, or she could pin it all on me. And because Nathan was the golden child she liked to show off, and I was the troublemaker in her eyes, she chose me. So I was the one who got suspended. I was the one who got treated like garbage by every teacher in that school. And Nathan? He realized right then, he could get away with absolutely anything. And oh, did he run with it. When I was 11, he stole $20 from my mom's wallet. Guess what her solution was? She didn't even ask. She just stormed into my room and sold my gaming console as punishment. Meanwhile, Nathan sat back and smirked. And it only escalated from there. Fast forward to when I was 14. I had just started dating my first girlfriend. Nathan, 2 years older, had his own girlfriend too. One afternoon, my girlfriend caught sight of him. At first glance, she thought it was me. She saw the back of his head kissing another girl and she recorded it. Sent it around school. Within hours, Nathan's phone was blowing up with angry messages, threats, his reputation crashing down. And instead of admitting it was him, he pointed the finger at me. Claimed I was the cheater. And the worst part? Everyone believed him, including my own mother. Our family was super strict about loyalty, and suddenly I was branded the scumbag. Relatives cut me off, friends ghosted me. After that, I stopped trying to have any kind of social life. I thought if I kept my head down, just made it to college, I'd finally be free. I couldn't have been more wrong. By the time I hit 11th grade, a new rumor was spreading about Nathan. People whispered that at some party, a girl had woken up next to him with no memory of what had happened. I didn't know if it was true, but the stories were consistent and terrifying. I started piecing things together, thinking maybe I could expose him, get him to admit what he'd done. But before I could even try, things turned on me. Again. Out of nowhere, people at school were threatening me. Eggs pelted me as I walked home. At lunch, someone threw a punch. And then it clicked. Nathan had told everyone I was the one. He dumped the blame on me again. I remember walking home early that day, shaking, not knowing what the hell to do. And then it got darker. Saturday night, I got a notification. I'd been tagged in a post. I clicked and my stomach dropped. An anonymous account, followed by practically my entire school, had blasted my personal information. My address, my phone number, my email. And worse, they wrote a detailed, disgusting story describing things I supposedly had done. Things that made me sick just reading them. My hands went ice cold. I scrolled through my contacts, desperate, and realized there was only one person I could call, my dad. I hadn't spoken to him in almost 10 years. But when he picked up, he didn't hesitate. He just asked, "Do you want to come over? I'll call you an Uber." I exhaled like I hadn't breathed in years and grabbed my stuff. On the ride over, I passed 4 cars filled with angry seniors, heading straight toward my house. Toyota Corollas packed with kids who wanted to teach me a lesson. I got lucky, they didn't notice me. I knew then I'd be staying at my dad's for a while. When I arrived, he didn't ask for explanations. He just hugged me tight and put on the Polar Express, my childhood favorite. The second Tom Hanks started narrating, I broke. I burst into tears, shaking so hard it turned into a full-blown panic attack. I couldn't even talk. I just shoved my phone at him, showing him the Instagram post. And for the first time in my life, someone said the words I desperately needed to hear. "Son, I know you wouldn't do that." That was the first time anyone had looked at me and believed in my innocence. I calmed down as he explained things I never knew. He told me my mom had always favored Nathan. He tried to defend me during their marriage, but every time he did, she got violent. That's why they divorced. And when I mentioned how mom told me he used to hit her, he just nodded, eyes full of pain, but he didn't argue. Somehow, I knew he forgave me for believing her. That night, I slept for the first time in years, really slept. No fear, no racing thoughts. Just peace. The next morning, I woke up to 37 missed calls and over 100 texts, most of them threats, some from mom demanding to know where I was. I turned off my phone and walked into the kitchen. My dad was flipping pancakes like it was just any ordinary Sunday. He asked if I wanted chocolate chips in mine, and I nearly cried again. I couldn't remember the last time someone made me breakfast, just for me. Over pancakes, he said, "We should probably talk about this. But only when you're ready." So I told him everything. From the rocks in the gas tank, to the stolen money, to the cheating lie, to the rumors, to this latest nightmare. He just listened, no interruptions, no judgment. By the end, his eyes looked heavy with sadness. "I knew your mother favored him," he said quietly, "but I didn't realize it had gotten this bad." He told me after the divorce he fought for custody, but mom convinced the judge he was dangerous. She even coached Nathan to say dad yelled at us. And since I was too young to testify, I just went wherever mom dragged me. Finally, I asked, "What do we do now? I can't go back to school. Everyone thinks I'm a monster." He sat there for a moment, then said, "First, we need proof. Proof it wasn't you. Then we deal with Nathan." I didn't know exactly what deal with Nathan meant. But for the first time in years, I wasn't alone. And that gave me hope. That Sunday, Dad and I sat down and tried to piece everything together. Where exactly had I been the night of Jake's party? Then it hit me, I'd ordered pizza. We dug through my email and there it was, a receipt, time-stamped 9:30 p.m. The exact time people swore I was at Jake's house. And I had more. My PlayStation trophies showed I'd been playing Skyrim well past midnight, grinding dragons until 2 a.m. Dad was relieved, we finally had solid proof. The next morning, he called the school and told them flat out, I wouldn't be showing up until they could guarantee my safety. The secretary's voice didn't even sound shocked. In fact, she admitted several parents had already called, demanding the school do something about that Williams boy. Yeah, that meant me. Dad took the day off and sat down with me at the kitchen table. Together, we created a private Instagram account, the kind that wouldn't instantly get buried in hate. We compiled everything, the pizza receipt, the PlayStation timestamps, screenshots of texts I'd sent that night, and posted it with one simple caption, I wasn't at Jake's party. I was home playing video games. Whoever hurt Megan, it wasn't me. Then I sent the link to the only people left who hadn't totally turned their backs on me, 5 kids from computer club. Not exactly friends, but at least they weren't enemies. I asked them to share it if they believed me. By that afternoon, 2 of them messaged me back. They said the post was making the rounds. People were starting to wonder. Just a little, but hey, doubt spreads fast in high school. It was the first flicker of hope I'd had in weeks. Tuesday, Dad had to go back to work, so I stayed at his place alone. My nerves were fried, pacing 1 minute, zoning out the next. Around lunch, my phone buzzed with a name that made my chest seize up. Megan. I stared at the screen for a solid minute before opening it. Her message said she'd seen my post and it made her think. She admitted something that shook me, she never actually saw the guy's face that night. She only remembered someone with my build, my hair color. And she wasn't even sure something happened, just that she woke up confused and missing her shirt. I swallowed hard and asked if she remembered anything else, anything that could point to Nathan. She paused, then said, yeah. The guy was wearing a class ring. Blue stone. That stood out. And there it was. Nathan's pride and joy, a football class ring with a bright blue gem. Me? I never had one. Couldn't afford it. I thanked her for reaching out and asked if she'd be willing to tell others she wasn't sure it was me. She said she'd think about it. Not exactly the silver bullet I needed, but it was something. Wednesday morning, everything escalated. I was alone when someone pounded on Dad's apartment door so hard the walls shook. I peeked through the peephole and my blood went cold. It was Mom. I know you're in there. She screamed. The school called me about your safety concerns. Open this door right now. I froze. My fingers hovered over the lock, but I didn't open it. Instead, I texted Dad, she's here. He shot back instantly, I'm 20 minutes away. Don't open the door. Stay quiet. Through the peephole, I watched her rage. She kept knocking, then started calling my phone over and over. I silenced it, but I could see her face getting redder with every unanswered ring. Finally, she shoved a note under the door before storming off. When she was gone, I picked it up. It said I was breaking her heart, that Dad was manipulating me, and get this, that she forgave me for what happened with Megan, if I came home now. Forgave me? Like she hadn't already sentenced me in her mind. By Friday, though, things were shifting. Word got back through my computer club acquaintances that Megan had told a few friends she wasn't sure it was me. That tiny ripple of doubt was spreading. Nathan, of course, doubled down, swearing up and down that he'd seen me at the party. Which was literally impossible, I had time-stamped proof I wasn't even there. The weekend that followed was, shockingly, normal. Dad and I ordered takeout, played cards, and binged movies. It was the first real peace I'd felt in years. For once, I almost forgot the storm outside. But Sunday night, the storm found me again. A text popped up from Jake, the guy whose house the party was at. Can we talk? Somewhere private? My gut twisted. I showed Dad, who narrowed his eyes. Could be a trap. Let's invite him here. I'll stay in my room, but I'll be close. Jake showed up Monday after school, looking like a deer in headlights. He kept fiddling with his car keys, glancing around like he expected cops to pop out of the closet. Finally, he blurted, I need to tell you something. But you can't tell anyone it came from me, okay? I nodded. He leaned in, voice low. My parents set up a security camera in the living room after the last time I threw a party. I wasn't supposed to have people over. But I checked the footage. He pulled out his phone, opened a video, and shoved it toward me. The grainy screen showed Nathan, my brother, guiding a stumbling Megan up the stairs. The timestamp? 9:37 p.m. The exact time I was at home with a pizza box in my lap. I stared at Jake, my pulse hammering. Why didn't you show this before? His face flushed. Nathan's my friend. And everyone already thought it was you. Plus, if my parents find out I threw another party, I'm dead. I clenched my jaw, fighting the urge to scream at him. Can I have a copy? He hesitated, then finally airdropped the file. Before leaving, he made me promise not to reveal where it came from. I agreed, though inside I thought he was a coward. As soon as he left, Dad and I watched the footage again. Nathan's face was unmistakable. The proof was undeniable. Dad looked at me, his voice calm but firm. This changes everything. We need to be smart about how we use this. And for the first time, I felt the tide turning. The very next morning, Dad drove me to the police station. My palms were sweating the whole way. I hated the idea of going there, but he insisted. We need this on record, he said. All of it, the threats, the posts, everything. We sat down with an officer to give our statement. At first he looked bored, like this was just another teenage drama. But then Dad mentioned the false assault accusation, and suddenly his whole posture changed. His pen started moving faster. We showed him everything, the Instagram account that blasted out my address, the screenshots of threats, the pizza receipt, my PlayStation timestamps, even the video from Jake's house. We didn't mention Jake by name, just said it came from an anonymous source. That's when Detective Palmer came in. She took one look and said, "Posting your private information like this? That's criminal. And these false allegations could fall under defamation." Then she looked at me. "Do you want to press charges against whoever made this account?" I froze. My gut screamed Nathan, but the account was anonymous. No proof. I didn't know what to say. Dad jumped in. "We mainly want the threats to stop. My son deserves to go back to school without fearing for his life." Palmer nodded. She promised to dig into it, to talk to the school, and even suggested I consider restraining orders against the worst offenders. That night, Dad and I sat at the kitchen table again. He suggested transferring to a different school, new start, clean slate. And I'll be honest, part of me wanted that. But another part? The bigger part? Felt like running would mean letting Nathan win. "I want to clear my name," I said. My voice cracked, but I meant it. "I'm done taking the blame for his crap." Dad just nodded like he already knew I'd say that. "Then we play this smart. Dumping the video online could backfire. He'll just scream it's fake." He leaned back. "First we show Megan. She deserved to see the truth. So I texted her asking to meet. She agreed, but when she showed up at the cafe near Dad's place, she kept her distance, sitting at a table smack in the middle of the crowd. I didn't blame her. I slid my phone across the table, the video paused right before Nathan appeared. "I wasn't at the party," I told her softly. "I have proof." She pressed play. I watched her eyes widen, her hand fly up to cover her mouth. "That's your brother," she whispered. "I remember that hoodie." I nodded. Meanwhile, I was home ordering pizza and slaying dragons on PlayStation. I can prove every minute of it. Her eyes glistened like she might cry. "I'm so sorry. Everyone swore it was you. Even Nathan." "Nathan lies," I cut in. "He always has. He's been doing this our whole lives. But this time I've got proof." She asked for a copy and I sent it to her phone. Before she left, she promised to tell people the truth. I didn't know if it would be enough, but it was something. The next day, everything blew up. Megan didn't just tell people, she posted the video herself, with a long caption apologizing. She admitted she'd been wrong, that it was Nathan in that footage, not me. My phone lit up like a Christmas tree. Some people apologized. Others doubled down, accusing me of manipulating Megan or editing the footage. And then Nathan texted me. "Just 4 words, you're dead when I find you." I showed Dad immediately. He didn't hesitate, called Detective Palmer right then. She told me to stay home, said she'd handle it. That evening, the pounding started again. Mom and Nathan, outside Dad's apartment, screaming through the door about the lies I was spreading. Dad called building security. They were escorted out, but not before Nathan snarled that he'd make me pay for ruining his reputation. The next morning, Detective Palmer called. The school had suspended Nathan pending investigation. They were even looking at possible disciplinary action tied to Megan's case. But that wasn't all. They traced the anonymous Instagram account. It wasn't Nathan who made it, but his buddy Tyler. And Tyler confessed. Nathan told him exactly what to post. Palmer explained the school wanted a meeting with me, my parents, and the counselor before I returned. Dad cut her off instantly. She, meaning my mom, isn't going to be there. Palmer hesitated but eventually agreed to try. The weekend that followed? Torture. Nathan kept making new accounts to send me threats. Mom's text swung from begging me to come home and fix this family to accusing me of tearing it apart. Through it all, Dad stayed calm, blocking numbers, saving evidence, keeping me grounded. Sunday night, he ordered my favorite pizza and put on dumb comedies until I passed out on the couch. For the first time, I felt safe. Monday morning, we walked into the school conference room. The principal, Mr. Reynolds, sat waiting with the school counselor, Ms. Chen, and Detective Palmer. "No, Mom." "Thank God." Mr. Reynolds cleared his throat. "First, I owe you an apology. We should have investigated more thoroughly before letting this spiral. We failed you." Ms. Chen leaned forward, voice calm but firm. "Several students confirmed Nathan was telling people you were at that party. Combined with your evidence, it's clear you were falsely accused. We'll be making accommodations to keep you safe here." They laid it out, a new schedule so I wouldn't have classes with Nathan, a private place to eat lunch if I wanted, teachers checking in regularly. Nathan would remain suspended until the disciplinary board decided his fate. I asked about the guys who threatened me. Mr. Reynolds said they were facing consequences, but couldn't give details. Afterward, Detective Palmer pulled us aside. Her voice dropped low. "Tyler's cooperating. We've got texts," Nathan told him word for word what to post. "This strengthens your case significantly." A shiver ran down my spine. Proof. Finally, proof. But instead of relief, all I felt was dread. Because I knew Nathan. He wouldn't accept this quietly. And I was right. That night, there was a knock at the door. My stomach twisted when Dad looked through the peephole. It was Nathan. Alone. He wasn't yelling this time. No threats, no fists pounding on the frame. He just stood there, calm, asking if we could talk. Dad hesitated, then finally opened the door after making sure no one else was with him. Nathan sank onto our couch like the weight of the world was crushing him. His eyes were bloodshot, his hands rubbed together nervously. "They're expelling me," he whispered. "And Megan's parents, they're pressing charges." I didn't know what to feel. A small part of me pitied him, he looked broken. But the bigger part remembered all the years I'd been punished for his lies, all the nights I cried myself to sleep because of him. "Why?" I finally asked, my voice trembling. Not just Megan. All of it. Why did you keep making me take the fall? Why ruin my life every single time you messed up? Nathan stared at the floor like the answer might be written there. I don't know, he muttered. It was just easy. Mom always believed me. After a while it was automatic. I'd screw up and the first thought was, I'll just say it was him. Dad leaned against the kitchen doorway, watching silently. Did you ever feel bad? I pushed. My chest was tight. Did you ever stop to think about what you were doing to me? Nathan shrugged. Sometimes, I guess. But then Mom would call me her good boy, and I'd forget. That casual tone lit a fire in me. Years of pain, humiliation, and isolation, and to him it was just something he forgot. Then he looked at me, almost pleading. I need your help. If you tell people you forgive me, maybe they'll go easier on me. You're my brother. You have to help me. I almost laughed. After everything, he was still trying to manipulate me. No, I said coldly. I don't have to do anything. Where were you when everyone thought I was a monster? You didn't just let it happen, you encouraged it. His face changed in an instant. The guilt, the vulnerability, it vanished. What replaced it was the same cold, calculating glare I'd seen in him since we were kids. You'll regret this, he spat, standing up. You think you've won? This isn't over. That's when Dad stepped forward, his voice firm. Yes, it is over. If you threaten your brother again, there will be consequences. Nathan sneered at him. Don't play Father of the Year. You weren't there for 10 years. Then he stormed out, slamming the door so hard the frame rattled. Dad locked it behind him, then rested a hand on my shoulder. You okay? I nodded. But truthfully? My hands were still shaking. His visit had shaken me more than I wanted to admit. The next few days crawled by. I stayed home, working on assignments remotely while the school finalized their safety plan. Mom's voicemails filled my inbox, half of them begging me to save Nathan, the other half accusing me of destroying the family out of spite. By Friday afternoon, Dad came home early, his face pale and tight. Detective Palmer called, he said slowly. Nathan's been arrested. My heart dropped. For what? Dad sighed. He broke into Jake's house. Attacked him. Blamed Jake for the video. I sank onto the couch. Is Jake okay? He's in the hospital. Broken nose. Concussion. But he's stable. Nathan's being charged with breaking and entering and assault. I felt sick. This had spiraled into something I couldn't even process. Despite everything Nathan had done to me, he was still my brother. And clearly, something inside him was broken. What happens now? I whispered. Dad sat down beside me. He'll probably face juvenile detention. Your mom's a mess, blaming everyone but him. She wants you to come home. I'm not going back, I said instantly. I know, Dad replied. And legally you don't have to. You're 17, courts usually consider your choice in custody. Tomorrow, I'm filing for emergency custody. With everything that's happened, we have a strong case. For the first time in weeks, maybe months, I felt something flicker inside me. Hope. But the next morning brought another twist. We opened the door to see Uncle Robert, Mom's brother. Unlike most of my extended family, he'd always been kind, though he'd distanced himself after the whole cheating scandal Nathan pinned on me. Can I come in? He asked softly. We sat at the kitchen table. He looked tired, older than I remembered. I've been following everything, he said. Megan's post, Nathan's arrest. I owe you an apology. I should have known something was off all these years. Nathan always had some excuse, and your mom, he stopped, shaking his head. She was too convincing. Then he said something I never expected. I want to help. My chest tightened. Help how? Your mom is refusing to face reality, Robert explained. She's telling everyone Nathan is being framed, that you orchestrated all of this. But I've spoken to Grandma and a few others. I showed them the evidence, the video, the posts. They're starting to believe the truth. I sat back in shock. I had written off my entire extended family. Now, for the first time, it felt like the tide might be turning. Robert's expression grew heavy. Your mom needs help. Real help. I think she's been struggling with serious mental health issues for years untreated. I've tried talking to her, but she won't listen. And suddenly it all clicked. Her irrational behavior. Her blind favoritism. The way she twisted reality until it strangled me. I want to testify at the custody hearing, Robert said firmly. I'll tell the judge what I've seen. If you're okay with it. Dad looked stunned but grateful. That would mean a lot. Before leaving, Robert hugged me tight. I'm sorry for not standing up sooner. But we'll make it up to you. For the first time, I didn't feel so alone. Sunday night, out of nowhere, I got a text. It was from Amber, yeah, that Amber, my ex from freshman year. She said she'd seen Megan's post, and it made her realize maybe she'd misjudged me too. She apologized for not letting me explain back then. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I typed back, thanks, but it's too little too late. Maybe that was petty, but after everything I'd endured? Honestly, I felt like I'd earned the right to be a little petty. The next morning, Dad and I drove to the courthouse for the emergency custody hearing. My leg bounced the entire ride, I couldn't stop it. My mom was going to be there. I hadn't seen her since she showed up with Nathan at our door. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. Mom was already sitting inside with her attorney. When she saw me, she actually tried to approach, but the bailiff blocked her. She looked awful. Hair unwashed, dark circles like she hadn't slept in days. For a second, I felt a flicker of concern, then reminded myself what she'd put me through. The hearing itself went faster than I imagined. Dad's lawyer laid out everything, the false accusations, the pattern of favoritism, Nathan's arrest, the threats I'd received. Then Uncle Robert testified. He told the judge how Mom had always pushed the Nathan's perfect story, punishing me for things I didn't even do. Finally, the judge turned to me. Do you want to live with your father? Yes, I said instantly, no hesitation. And do you want contact with your mother? That question hit harder. My throat tightened. After a long pause, I managed, maybe, eventually. But not right now. I need space. The judge studied me, then nodded like she understood. She granted Dad temporary full custody, with the possibility of revisiting visitation after 3 months of counseling. As we left, Mom intercepted us. This time the bailiff allowed it. She leaned in close, eyes blazing. This isn't over, she hissed. You've turned everyone against me, my family, my own son. Dad started to step between us, but I held out my hand. I wanted to say this myself. No, Mom. You did this. You chose Nathan over me again and again. You let him hurt me. You helped him hurt me. I hope you get help, but I can't be around you right now. I walked away before she could answer. In the parking lot, Dad draped an arm over my shoulder. I'm proud of you, he said simply. And I believed him. That afternoon, we met with Ms. Chen at school to finalize my return. With Nathan in juvie and a restraining order in place, the immediate danger was covered. My teachers had already been briefed, so I wouldn't have to keep reliving the story. We can't control what other students whisper, Ms. Chen warned gently. But harassment will not be tolerated. Wednesday, I walked back into school. The halls felt colder, every eye on me. People stared, whispered, but no one confronted me. At lunch, a couple kids from computer club sat with me, chatting about games like nothing had happened. That silent support? It meant more than they knew. By Friday, it almost felt normal. Teachers were kinder than before, some even going out of their way to check in. After class, I found Jake leaning against my locker, his face still bruised from Nathan's attack, a bandage across his nose. Hey, he muttered. I just wanted to say sorry. For not speaking up sooner. I was scared of losing friends. Pretty pathetic compared to what you went through. I told him it was okay. At least he'd done the right thing eventually. That was more than most. Then he added, there's gonna be a party at my house next weekend. A real one, parents approved. You should come. I blinked. A party invite? Me? I'll think about it, I said. Honestly, I wasn't sure if I was ready for that kind of scene again. That night I told Dad. He smiled. It's good to have options, he said. You don't have to go if you're not comfortable. But it's nice to be included. I nodded, swallowing down this weird emotional lump in my throat. For so long I was just surviving. Just counting down the days until college. But now, maybe high school doesn't have to be completely awful. Dad squeezed my shoulder. It doesn't. And whatever happens, we'll handle it together. And for the first time in years, I believed him. That night, I lay in bed with a feeling I barely recognized. Not dread. Not fear. Something else. Hope. Hope that I could build a future not defined by Nathan's lies or Mom's favoritism. Hope that maybe, just maybe, I could actually be happy. I didn't know what Dad had planned for Mom and Nathan long term. But I knew one thing for sure, whatever came next, I wasn't alone. Because Dad, he'd always been the only one who truly had my back. The custody hearing was behind us, but I couldn't shake the nerves. Every time my phone buzzed, my heart jumped. A part of me kept expecting Nathan's name to flash across the screen with some new threat, even though he was locked up in juvie, cut off from the outside world. Dad noticed. He always noticed. One night while he was flipping burgers on the stove, he glanced over at me flinching at a notification. Maybe you should change your ringtone, he suggested. Something less startling. Maybe from that game you're always playing. It was such a small thing, but it hit me hard, he was paying attention. That night I swapped my ringtone for the Skyrim level up sound. And for once, every time my phone buzzed, it didn't make my stomach twist, it made me smile. A couple of weeks later, life started to settle into something resembling normal. Sure, a few kids still whispered when I walked by, but high school drama has the attention span of a goldfish. Most of them had already moved on. And for the first time in years, I actually made friends. Not just acquaintances who tolerated me in computer club, but actual friends, the kind who invited me into their Discord server, asked my opinion on builds and spammed memes at me at midnight. Even Jake kept checking in. His bruises were fading, the bandage gone from his nose, but his loyalty was only getting stronger. One day in the cafeteria, a senior muttered something under his breath about me, and Jake snapped right back at him, shutting it down instantly. I didn't need protecting, but knowing someone had my back? That was a new and strangely comforting feeling. Then one Friday my phone rang. It was Uncle Robert. How about dinner at my place this weekend? He asked. Then, almost hesitantly, Grandma will be there. She's been asking about you. My chest tightened. I hadn't seen Grandma since before everything blew up. The thought made me nervous, but Dad encouraged me to go. The right family is worth keeping, he said. So Saturday evening Uncle Robert picked me up. The car ride started awkward, but he filled the silence with little updates, my cousin getting into college, another uncle buying a boat. Normal family stuff. Stuff that had nothing to do with Nathan or Mom. When we walked in, Grandma was already waiting in her favorite armchair. The moment she saw me, she stood up, her eyes glassy with tears. There's my boy, she whispered, holding out her arms. I froze for half a second before stepping forward. Hugging her felt different. She seemed smaller than I remembered, fragile. I'm sorry, she murmured against my shoulder. I should have known better. That simple apology nearly broke me. I had to blink back tears as we sat down to eat. Dinner passed without anyone mentioning Mom or Nathan directly. Grandma asked about Dad instead. How are things with him? Really good, I said, smiling. He's teaching me to drive on weekends. Her eyes softened. Your grandfather taught me to drive. Said I was a natural. For a moment, it felt like we were just a normal family sharing normal stories. Afterward, Uncle Robert pulled me aside. His voice was low. Your mom's been calling everyone. She's trying to rally support for the permanent custody hearing. My stomach dropped. Is it working? He shook his head. Not the way she wants. Most people have seen the evidence. Nathan's arrest was the last straw. They know the truth now. Before I left, Grandma pressed something into my hand, a small key on a chain. This is for your grandfather's tackle box, she explained softly. He always meant for you to have his fishing gear when you were old enough. I think it's time. That moment nearly undid me. In our family, Grandpa's fishing gear was sacred. Passing it to me wasn't just about the tools, it was her way of saying, you belong with us. Your family. The real family. The next court date was set for 3 months away. In the meantime, Dad and I started therapy. He went individually and I saw Dr. Melissa, sometimes solo, sometimes in a group for teens dealing with family trauma. At first, I was resistant. I didn't want to talk about feelings. But Dr. Melissa was different. She let me ramble about video games, let me rant about boss fights and side quests until I finally felt safe enough to open up. One day she said something that stuck. Your brother's actions reflect his issues, not your worth. And your mother's inability to see the truth? That isn't your responsibility to fix. It sounded simple. Believing it was harder. 17 years of being the scapegoat doesn't disappear overnight. Meanwhile, Dad worked with his lawyer, pushing for permanent full custody. The plan was supervised visitation for Mom, if she agreed to therapy. I didn't know how I felt about seeing her at all. But Dr. Melissa reminded me gently, you don't need to decide that right now. And for once, I felt like maybe she was right. April rolled around, and just when life was beginning to feel steady, we got news that made my stomach drop. Nathan was being released early from juvie for good behavior. The second Dad heard, he was on the phone with our attorney. She reassured us the restraining order was still solid. Nathan couldn't come within 500 feet of me, couldn't call, text, or contact me in any way. But my anxiety spiked anyway. What if he just shows up at school? I asked, panic curling in my chest. He won't, Dad said firmly. Part of his release means he has to attend a different school and stay in mandatory counseling. I nodded, but I wasn't convinced. Nathan had never cared about rules before. Why would he start now? The night before his release, I barely slept. Every creak in the apartment made me imagine him standing outside the door waiting. Every sound in the hallway made my heart race. But then, nothing. Days passed and no sign of him. According to Uncle Robert, Nathan had moved back in with Mom and was keeping a low profile. Word around school was that his college prospects were destroyed. And honestly, I didn't feel bad. He had nearly destroyed my life. By May, I finally started to relax. Until the day I was pulled out of class. Third period, the intercom crackled, summoning me to the principal's office. My palms went clammy, my mind racing. Had Nathan shown up? Did something happen? When I walked in, Principal Reynolds was waiting. And next to him sat a police officer I didn't recognize. Don't worry, you're not in trouble, Mr. Reynolds said quickly. Officer Garcia just has a few questions. Officer Garcia leaned forward. Your mother filed a report claiming your father is abusive. She says you're in danger living with him. My jaw literally dropped. After everything, she was still at it. The officer continued, she even provided photos of bruises she claims came from your father during visitation. Visitation? I almost laughed. That's impossible. I haven't had visitation with her since the temporary custody order. I haven't even seen her. I pulled out my phone, scrolling through my calendar. Dr. Melissa had suggested I start logging my activities for stability, so I had a neat record of therapy sessions, time with Dad, schoolwork, all of it. Look, every single day accounted for. Officer Garcia nodded, scribbling notes. Then he added, your mother also claims your father coached you to lie about your brother. My frustration boiled over. Officer, my brother confessed to multiple people that he pinned things on me. It's all documented. And he literally got arrested for assaulting someone who had proof against him. The questions dragged on, but finally Garcia seemed satisfied. He reminded me that all claims had to be investigated, but my statement would be noted. Mr. Reynolds apologized for the disruption and handed me a pass back to class. As soon as the final bell rang, I called Dad. He wasn't even surprised. Her attorney already filed it. It's a desperate move, he said calmly. She knows the permanent custody hearing's close and she's running out of options. That night, the nightmares returned. Dreams of being trapped back in the old house, Nathan leaning in my doorway with that same smug smile. Dr. Melissa told me to write them down to take away their power. At first it felt silly, but oddly it helped. Then, a week before the custody hearing, I got an email that made my blood run cold. The subject line read, thought you should know. It was from Megan. We hadn't really spoken since she posted the video clearing my name. But in the email, she explained that Nathan had reached out to her. Claimed he wanted to apologize. But during their conversation, he tried to twist the knife again, telling her that I had manipulated the video evidence. That I had turned everyone against him out of jealousy. She ended with, I don't believe him, obviously. But I thought you should know, he's still trying to blame you. I forwarded the email to Dad and our attorney right away. Another piece of evidence. Another reminder that neither Nathan nor Mom was finished trying to tear me down. And the permanent custody hearing was right around the corner. The morning of the hearing, I woke up with a knot in my stomach so tight it felt like I couldn't breathe. Dad, trying to keep things light, made pancakes again, calling it our good luck ritual. I appreciated it, I really did, but my fork just pushed the food around the plate. I couldn't eat. The courthouse felt less alien this time, but no less intimidating. Mom was already inside with her attorney. And to my surprise, Nathan was there too. He wasn't supposed to testify, not with a criminal record hanging over him, but I guess they thought dragging him in might sway the judge somehow. Nathan didn't even look at me when we entered. He just sat stiffly, staring forward, hands folded in his lap. Mom, on the other hand, kept trying to lock eyes with me, sending pleading looks across the room that made my skin crawl. The hearing began with Dad's attorney. She laid everything out, the progress I'd made since moving in with Dad. My steady therapy sessions, my improved grades, the fact that for the first time in years I had a stable home environment. Then came the bombshell. She introduced Megan's email. And not just hers, 3 other messages from students who had also been pressured by Nathan to keep blaming me. The courtroom shifted. You could feel it. When Mom's attorney got his turn, he tried to paint Dad as some opportunist, a father who swooped in after 10 years of absence. But Dad stayed calm. He explained that for a decade, he'd mailed birthday cards, Christmas gifts, paid child support every single month. That he had never stopped trying. I never walked away, he said evenly. I wasn't allowed to be there. Then it was my turn. My hands shook as I raised them for the oath. I'd practiced with Dr. Melissa, but nothing prepares you for a judge staring you in the eye, waiting for answers. Tell me about your living situation, she asked. I swallowed hard. It's good. I have my own room. My grades are up. I'm making friends again. My dad and I cook dinner together most nights, and he's teaching me practical stuff. Like how to change oil in a car. Mom's attorney tried to corner me. Don't you miss your family? Isn't this just anger you'll eventually get over? I took a deep breath. I do miss parts of my old life, I admitted. But I don't miss being blamed for everything. I don't miss being punished for Nathan's mistakes. And I don't miss my mom choosing him over me every single time. From the corner of my eye, I saw Mom flinch. But I didn't stop. My dad believes me when I tell him the truth. Do you know how huge that is? After years of living with people who assume the worst about me. The judge nodded, then asked the hardest question. Do you want contact with your mother or your brother? I hesitated only a second. Maybe someday with my mom if she gets help. But not with Nathan. Not after everything. As I stepped down, Nathan finally looked at me. His face wasn't angry. It wasn't smug. It was just blank. Empty. And somehow that felt worse than hatred. The judge called a recess before delivering her decision. Dad and I sat in a small conference room silent. Our attorney looked optimistic, but I didn't let myself hope. Not yet. When we returned, the judge didn't waste time. She granted Dad permanent physical and legal custody. Mom would only be allowed supervised visitation, and only after 6 months of therapy, with reports submitted to the court. The evidence shows a pattern of parental alienation and scapegoating, the judge said firmly. This court cannot in good conscience return the minor to an environment where such psychological harm was inflicted. Mom broke down sobbing, clutching Nathan's arm. He just sat there, face still frozen in that same empty stare. And me? I felt nothing. Not relief, not joy, not even anger. Just numb. Outside the courthouse, Uncle Robert was waiting. He hugged me, awkward but real, and shook Dad's hand. The family's behind you, he promised. Whatever you need. That night, Dad ordered pizza and we finally watched all 3 Back to the Future movies like we'd been talking about for weeks. Halfway through the second one, it hit me. This was permanent. I was safe. Dad wasn't going to vanish. I wasn't going back to being Nathan's scapegoat. And the realization overwhelmed me. I started crying out of nowhere. Dad paused the movie immediately. What's wrong? He asked, alarmed. I'm okay, I managed between tears. I keep waiting for something to go wrong. He nodded, eyes soft. It's going to take time to believe you're safe. That's normal. For the first time in my life, I believed him. The months after the custody ruling passed quietly, and that was exactly what I needed. No chaos, no threats, no drama. Just peace. Nathan, I heard through Uncle Robert, had gotten accepted to some small college across the country. Apparently, Mom hired one of those expensive consultants to push his application through. I tried not to think about it too much, but a bitter thought kept circling in my head. He was starting fresh somewhere new, where no one knew what he'd done. Meanwhile, Mom completed her court-ordered therapy and filed a request for visitation. I wasn't ready. And Dad didn't push. Healing happens on your timeline, he reminded me gently. Not hers. By the time senior year rolled around, my life looked nothing like it had before. Teachers saw me for who I was, not as Nathan's troubled little brother. I had real friends. And for the first time I was dating someone, Riley, a girl from computer club who couldn't care less about my family drama. One October afternoon, I walked in from school and found Dad sitting at the kitchen table, his expression serious. Your mom called, he said. Nathan's been expelled. I froze. For what? Dad sighed. He tried the same routine at college. Blamed his roommate for stealing from the cafeteria. Only this time there were security cameras. I sank into a chair. So what does she want? She thinks you could talk to him. Help him understand consequences. I actually laughed, sharp and bitter. She wants me to teach Nathan about consequences? After she spent his whole life making sure he never faced any? Dad just shrugged. I told her it's not your responsibility. But I thought you should know. That night, while filling out college applications, I kept replaying it in my head. Did Nathan feel any remorse? Or was he still convinced he was the victim of some grand conspiracy? The next day, I brought it up with Dr. Melissa. We'd cut sessions back to once a month, but I still valued her advice. Do what feels right for you, she said simply. Not what your mother wants. Not what anyone expects. What you need. I thought about it for a week. Then I sat down and wrote Nathan a letter. I didn't offer forgiveness. I didn't offer help. I just laid out line by line exactly how his actions had damaged my life. I never sent it. Never expected a reply. I wrote it for me to finally release the last pieces of anger I'd been carrying. Nathan never responded. Mom reached out again, asking if I'd reconsider meeting with them. I declined, firmly but politely. Senior year flew by. I got into my top choice college in California with a partial scholarship. Riley got accepted to a school an hour away from mine, and we made loose plans to visit each other on weekends. Dad, ever the planner, started teaching me about budgeting, laundry, and all the adulting things I'd need soon. Graduation day came with clear skies and warm sunshine. Dad, Uncle Robert, Grandma, and a few other relatives filled the seats to cheer me on. As I sat waiting for my name, I spotted Mom slipping quietly into the back row. She didn't approach afterward, just gave me a small wave before disappearing again. That summer was the best of my life. I worked at a local computer repair shop, spent weekends fishing with Dad using Grandpa's old tackle box, and for the first time in forever I was actually excited about what was ahead. The nightmares stopped. Completely. A week before I left for California, Jake threw a going-away party. Nothing wild, just pizza, video games, and yearbook signatures. As I was saying goodbyes, he pulled me aside. You know, he said, shaking his head, after everything last year I never thought we'd end up real friends. Me neither, I admitted. Back then I was just trying to survive high school. He grinned. Well, you did more than survive. You conquered it. Driving west with Dad, I watched my hometown shrink in the side mirror. And for once, I didn't feel sad. Just free. We'd already planned his visits, parents' weekend, Thanksgiving, Christmas break. After setting up my dorm room, Dad handed me a small wrapped package. A going-away gift, he said with a smile. Inside was a framed photo of us from graduation, both grinning in the backyard sunlight. In the corner, he'd written, the first of many proud moments to come. I didn't know what the future held for Mom or Nathan. Maybe one day I'd be ready to see them again. Maybe not. But I knew one thing with absolute certainty, I wasn't defined by their choices anymore. Dad had shown me what family really meant. And for the first time in my life, I felt free to become whoever I wanted to be. That night, my new roommate asked casually, so are you close with your family? I smiled. With my dad, I said simply. He's always had my back. Thanks for watching. Today's train wreck is over, but tomorrow's ride is already on track. Subscribe so you don't miss it.